agricultural economy to an intellectual economy. Instead of people that did heavy lifting for a living, they wanted to build an economy around people who think for a living. So you had growing research triangle parks erupting all over the state. You had more and more people being encouraged to re-enroll in community colleges, in the university system, etc. So all these people that think for a living, like that's what I do. And you've heard me talk before, you've heard this joke, but I think for a living. I think about what I think, I tell you what I think, you tell me what you think, we argue about what we think, and at the end of the day, we produce absolutely nothing. And so we need people who can do that for us, so that I can think all day and write about what I think. I need somebody who can make sure that all I have to do is drive to my local store and buy my tomatoes, and not have to get my hands dirty growing my own tomatoes. Right? And so we needed this economy, or we needed this force of people who could support the growing people, the growing number of folks that were thinking for a living. Right? And so we had this economic shift. We had urban sprawl. The next thing is that we had active recruitment by North Carolina industry. Active recruitment. Literally where you have folks that send people to Mexico to bring in a truck full of people to come back and work at a plant. Or hire subcontractors who hire subcontractors who hire subcontractors to bring in a dozen people to work at the construction site. Right? Well, I didn't know. I was dealing with a subcontractor. Right? And so we had active recruitment of people into this country. And North Carolina had a migrant pathway. North Carolina has historically been and continues to be the largest employer of legal guest workers in the country. Our agricultural fields, tobacco, Christmas trees, cucumbers, all of that. We've had guest workers here for years. Legal guest workers that came here seasonally to work the crops and then return back to Mexico. And along with those legal guest workers, you had undocumented workers that came with them and worked in those same fields. So there was, in a sense, a pathway. Now, when they built that wall along the U.S.-Mexican border, they didn't build a continuous wall, they built pieces of wall. So 150 miles of wall and then nothing. And then 200 miles of wall and then nothing. And one of the places where they decided they could do nothing was the Arizona desert. And so it became deadlier to make those crossings. Literally thousands of people dying in that desert. Of dehydration, of exposure, of hypothermia, of violent deaths, of car accidents. That's just who we even know. Those are just the bodies that have been discovered in the desert. And they come across that desert and they die to come here and mow our lawns and wash our dishes and grow our food. And it's unfathomable that we allow that to continue. But so once they built that wall and they made it deadlier, it's not that they stopped people from coming in, it's that they stopped people from leaving. It's not that folks said, oh, we're not going to go into the U.S. They said, if I get to the U.S., I'm only going to go once. And then I'm sticking. And so then we had a shift where it wasn't migratory anymore. You had communities that were establishing roots. You didn't just have young, strapping, working-age people that were coming across. You now had their wives and their children and their aging parents that were coming across. And that fundamentally shifted everything. And the last piece, of course, is that we have a broken immigration system. Thousands of people that are dying in the desert. We have somewhere between 11 and 24 million undocumented people living in the United States today. And in response, our federal government has done nothing. Nothing, except just sort of symbolic gestures at more walls or more militarization of the border. And then they leave it to the states to figure it out. States like North Carolina that are hugely tense right now, that don't understand what a Latino is necessarily. You know, that a Latino could have been born in Chicago. Oh, but where are your parents from? Right? I can't tell you how many times I've got, oh, your English is so good. Well, thanks. I'm working on my Spanish. It's pretty broken. Right? And so for North Carolina to not understand that, and then to have the power to pull someone over in Alamance County and question immigration status is truly a frightening thing. And so what we have is a climate of deep fear, folks with power who don't understand necessarily what's going on, don't understand the immigration system, and don't understand the community. And what we need are allies. lobbying, I cannot tell you how many times someone said to me, including, in the state legislature and in Congress, we hear you, we're on your side, but we can't do anything unless you can get us the votes. We need you to change the hearts and minds of North Carolina because your people don't vote. And it's true. In North Carolina, the majority of our community is immigrant, legal and undocumented. But what that means is that the majority of Latinos in North Carolina don't have the right to vote. And so as far as elected officials are concerned, we can't provide them the safety net that they need in order to be able to do something that in their heart they would like to do. So they tell us we need to change the hearts and minds of North Carolina, and you are North Carolina. And so what we need are folks like you that will speak out on this issue because they hear you in a way that they don't hear our community. Your voice has a power that our community's voice doesn't always have. Our community marches in the streets, we protest, we strike, we carry signs, we wear t-shirts, we have hunger strikes in the Capitol for something like 19 days, 3 girls hunger striking in front of the Capitol. But at the end of the day, what they need to know is what voters think, what you think. So, that's it. Thank you.